shine. There's gotta be a little rain sometime. When you take your I wait all night long, I wait again.
I can't believe this is the.
Is that maybe that's just
Well, this is the ninth song. We've done 9.
character.
We really done well today.
Could be for sure.
We kind of started to get on a roll. We got tired last night, but we started to get on a roll. You know. So sometimes people want to know what what my influences are, and there's really a lot, because I kind of have grown up in the middle of what I think is like the heart of all of American music. But one of my records, Wandering Strange, I really kind of explored one side of my most direct influences, and that was the more gospel side, growing up singing in the church, and then my love of R&B, as particularly what came out of Memphis and Muscle Shoals, Alabama. But really the most direct influences on my life kind of come from country music, predominantly what was going on in Nashville, and that's because of my age and that my family had moved from Mississippi to Nashville about the time that I was starting to play music, play my own music, play the guitar, and listen to the radio a lot. And so what I heard was what was beginning to happen here in Nashville when I was growing up. And we might could do it, y'all. I mean, she's doing it in B flat, but I might could do it in A. If I wanna, you know, let's try it in A and make it a little bit lower for me today, and see if it's not, you know, I don't want it to sound too. Sometimes I have to step in here. Oh, I've got the lyrics, and you guys will Sammy Smith. And it was like her only one. That's why I'm putting it on this. I mean, it wasn't her only hit, but really, Sammy Smith, I mean, that was really it for her. I mean, that was the height of her career, you know. And it was really cool because Sammy Smith turning that into a woman from a female perspective in 1973 was pretty risky. They didn't really know, you know, but back in the 70s, some of these songs, you know, country music was a lot more of adult music. They weren't really, even Satin Sheets, I mean, the women sang pretty much straight ahead songs, you know. So Sammy Smith, but of course Chris Christopherson wrote that. This is Lynn Anderson. Lynn Anderson was the Rose Garden. All these are women. I chose all these songs because it was when I was listening to the radio and really learned to play the guitar. Most of these songs come between 1970 and 1975, except for Harper Valley PTA, which was 1968. So it's like the oldest song on the record. But I was just such a huge, I mean, I remember that song, that, and of course the song I'm not doing on the record because I just don't feel I can touch it is Ode to Billy Joe. But Harper Valley PTA, Ode to Billy Joe, Got Me Make It Through the Night, they were just huge, and they were like, Rose Garden was like a crossover pop, you know. So, but these are all women. I mean, some of the ones I've, you know, the 2 Dolly songs I'm singing, of course, Dolly wrote. The Tammy Wynette song I chose because Tammy was a writer on it. And I'm doing Boulder to Birmingham, which also Emmy actually wrote, was a writer on it too. I first got the idea of maybe doing a record, a kind of a tribute record to the women country singers and songwriters. Back a long time ago when I first met a guy named Kevin Gordon, who actually plays on this record. Kevin's from Louisiana, and of course when I was younger I lived in Mississippi, and I first met Kevin and we wrote some songs together, and I love what he does, and I was telling him, we were talking about this old duet, this Conway Twitty Loretta Lynn duet, and I thought how much fun it would be to record that song one day, except switch it around and make it Mississippi Woman, Louisiana Man, though the original was Louisiana Woman, Mississippi Man. Because I can't be as holler sounding as Loretta, you know, but I'm going to have a little bit of that in there, if I can.
Yeah.
But I'll really just play it off you.
All right.
So the more you sound like Conway, the more I'll sound like Loretta.
All right.
I'm gonna jump in the river and here I go to that alligator. You swim too slow. Yeah, Mississippi woman, we get together every time we can. Mississippi River can't keep us apart. Too much love in this Louisiana heart. Too much love in this Louisiana heart.
And then I had the idea to write a song called Twang On A Wire. I've had it for, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years. And at first I tried to write a bunch of different ways, and then I realized I just needed to write a song about playing the guitar and loving country music and singing. And so when I finally wrote that song, then I realized, well, that could be the title of the record, and I could record some of those songs that I've always wanted to record.
'61 Gibson, tobacco sunburst, carved my name on the back in the Bible verse. It was one piece of wood that sure started a fire. All I wanted to do was twang on a wire.
And I was having breakfast with a friend of ours named John Graveling, who's from England, and he comes over every summer. And we were having breakfast, and I don't even know how it came up. I don't know if I was talking about Kevin Gordon or that I had in the back of my mind to maybe do this country record one day, but I didn't know who was going to play on it. And all of a sudden, John started saying, well, have you thought about Will Kimbrough? And I'd never met Will. All these years I'd wanted to. And as soon as he said that, I said, well, you know, that might be pretty cool. And he goes, well, I'll just call Will now. And so he called Will. And the night before, I'd met Jeff Finlin at a concert. And so through John, we just started calling everybody. And then David Jacques, who is wonderful, and I've known about his work, and had met actually David at the Wandering Strange album release, because he played with Kevin that night. And that's the first time I met David, and I knew that David could play stand-up bass and also electric bass or whatever we needed. And so as soon as John suggested Will, and then it happened pretty fast. The best is the Jeannie Pruitt version. I mean, but a lot of people have done, like Dolly Parton did Satin Sheets. And of course I love Dolly, but it's the Jeannie Pruitt version that's the coolest. And that's the Jordanaires singing behind Satin Sheets.
That's a great cut.
So, Louisiana man, we get together every time we can. Mississippi River can't keep us apart. And too much love in this Mississippi heart. How's that? Peachy? Then I needed to find a studio, and I kind of wanted to do it obviously on Music Row. And I'd met Richard McLaurin a long time ago, and had not realized till I started doing some research, that Richard had been renovating and starting back up again the House of David, which was a studio in an old Victorian house on Music Row, basically started in the 1970s, which was again the time period that I was beginning to zone in on the songs that I wanted to pick. I have to lean into the mic to get that low note. Y'all, I think I'm still not doing on the bridge. Somebody help me out here. On the mornings, I think I'm not doing the beef. I'm not doing this passing thing.
Surely someday I'll look up and see the morning sun without another lonely night behind me. Was that okay? But that's okay. Okay.
Probably my biggest influence originally was Dolly Parton. And so for years I'd done a song called Touch Your Woman by Dolly, but the song I always thought was just is evidence of her narrative brilliance is a song called Down from Dover.
From Dover. That's a pretty good track, isn't she?
Pretty damn good.
That's pretty damn good. I know, there's some good stuff
Like,
going on there.
it's real seamless. You
Woo!
know?
Oh yeah, but that song has to be done that way. It can't be done any other way because the story just has to go all the way through. You know, the story's got to carry.
I heard my part.
That's Dolly Parton
And you-
writing at
did you
her
hear it?
best. This is my personal
It's
opinion.
very mid.
This is the bottom. This is the Elvis entranceway, which will, like that was a garage over there, so he could pull his car in the back, his limo or Cadillac, and then walk up these steps through the trap door right under, which will show from the top. That's the Elvis entrance, so nobody could see him coming in. You know, it's kind of wide because it was later on in Elvis's career. And I'm also going to do 2 Jeannie Pruitt songs. We're going to do the Satin Sheets
With the sunshine.
and this really like
Gotta be a
great honky-tonk song also from Jeannie Pruitt. It's called Honey on His Hands. And I just couldn't resist. It's just, to me, when I think about Nashville and basically being in Nashville and being from Nashville overall, I think of the early 70s and when I was, and it was these women singers and the Nashville, it was really the height of the Nashville sound, you know, and it's probably my greatest influence on me besides my gospel roots that I was also hearing and singing in church. So I think especially the reason I sing and write and how I do hear things today is because of where I was and the music I was exposed to when I was playing the guitar at, 10, 11, 12 years old. It was all these women. It was Tammy. It was on the radio here in Nashville. It's WSIX and WSM radio. And my mother would have the radio tuned to WSIX AM in the mornings, and that's what we would listen to, or WSM AM when I was getting ready for school. So, and of course, Harper Valley PTA was like the scandal song. But it was great. Everybody loved it. I mean, it was just everybody loved it, And of course, all these songs I think are written by, of course, the women who were writers, but also, Tom T. Hall wrote Harper Valley PTA. Joe South, we were just talking about, wrote Rose Garden, and also Games People Play, for instance. And then there was, of course, my favorite, Chris Christopherson wrote Help Me Make It Through the Night, of course. And, David Allan Coe wrote Would You Lay With Me in a Field of Stone, which the Tanya Tucker song, I chose that. Of course, I love Delta Dawn. That was one of the first songs I could play and sing, but Tanya was like my age. So it was really cool that there was this 12-year-old girl and 13-year-old girl making records. So we all wanted to be Tanya Tucker, but I always loved the song Would You Lay With Me in a Field of Stone. It's a real simple song. Singing with the radio is what I wanted to do. When I was little, I sang with the radio, and I wanted people, when they get this record, to remember some of these songs. Some of these songs people will remember, and they've just forgotten about them. And I hope that people who've never heard some of these songs will hear them and think, especially people younger than myself, and think, oh, these are great songs. And great music has always been recorded, great singers, great songwriters, and we need to remind ourselves of these folks every now and then. How's that?